closed. Do you have something from
We tried.
Robert? I'm friends with his chief of staff, so I have to give him. Well, just congratulating you. You got one of those broken chairs? Hello there, young lady. How are you? We need to get a hat rack or a coat rack or something like that. Nice little project, right? I mean, at least another 3 months. No? It's only February. Practically naked.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4 through 10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the Board Office, the schools, and on Cablevision Channel 118 and Verizon Fios Channel 24, and by filing such notice with the Township Clerk. The meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. The Board will take formal action on payment of bills and other agenda items. Mr. Whiteout?
The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that the act of recording does not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered the private recording of the individual and in no manner represents the official record of this board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Roll call, please.
Dunn.
Here.
Francisco.
Here.
Giordano.
Here.
Jodry.
Here.
Mazzone.
Here.
Slade.
Here.
Solikowski.
Here.
Venkatesan is absent. And Dantuno.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We will have a moment of silence next week.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, pledge. I'm sorry. Can we all stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance. Thank you. So we will have a moment of silence next week. Ethics Corner. Is there someone who would like to read it next week?
I'll read it.
Thank you. Christina. District goals and board goals, we will be approving next week, so that will be able to go in there. Any questions on the minutes?
Minutes are coming.
Okay. And we'll have our student, we'll have our retirement next week. Any superintendent's report?
We're going to do one tonight.
We will be handling one tonight under the business administrator's report.
All right. This evening we have our audit presented by Michael Pinnell of Samuel Klein and Company. The audit is on the agenda for approval at next week's meeting. Upon approval, we have to upload that, send a certificate of that to the county, as well as do all our final uploads on those minutes. So tonight we will have Michael Pinnell of Samuel Klein and Company, who's an independent auditor, present on our 23-24 fiscal audit.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Pinnell, and I represent the firm Samuel Klein and Company. We are an independent auditing firm licensed with the state of New Jersey and are appointed by the board to perform the June 30th, 2024 school audit. An annual audit is required each year by the Department of Education and has a submission date of December 5th. However, for this year, the deadline was extended to January 15th. And I would like to thank them for that extra time. It's always helpful when you have extra time. And I'm pleased to report that your audit was filed by this due date with all state and county agencies. Before I get into some of the financials, common question I get asked is, well, what do you do for an audit? So I'd like to take some time just to go over some of the tests, some of the items we look at when we perform our audit. Each year, the Department of Education releases what is called the School Audit Program. These are the compliance requirements and audit procedures that we must follow to meet state regulations. These requirements are divided into three categories: general compliance, specific compliance, and reporting. I'll highlight some of the tests and procedures we do for each section. But first, I'd like to point out that an audit is not 100% verification. All our testing is based on samples, and we base our conclusions on those samples that we test. Another common question I get asked is, how long does it take to perform an audit? Usually it takes around 3 months to complete the audit, and that starts from the day we come in for field work. Usually takes about 4 to 5 weeks. We're back in the office usually for another couple weeks, printing out work papers, doing our audit programs. Then it's in for typing. Then it gets proofread. Then it gets two-partner review, and then finally it's released. At this time, I like to go over the audit program. So the first section, general compliance. Some of the items we look at, We read through your minutes, making sure that they're complete. Next thing we'll do is we'll look at the application for state student aid. This is the count that's performed on October 15th. We'll review that count, make sure that it has proper documentation, proper work papers are there. Again, we'll do some sampling, make sure that student counts agree to attendance records, and just to make sure everything is in agreement. We also look at bids and contracts in your purchasing department, make sure those records are complete. We'll also go through all the ledgers from the business office. We'll make sure that they agree to your treasurer reports, bank recs are complete. After we go through all the financials, then if there's any audit journals, we'll supply them to the business office, so then you guys could roll over to your next school year. Section 2 is specific compliance. Now this is where it gets down to actual funds within your district. So the first fund is Fund 10. That's your general fund. That's your main operating account. This is where all your main expenditures and pretty much all your revenue gets deposited. Your main revenue is your is your unrestricted state aid. This is all your different aids that come in throughout the year, and also your taxes. So we verify that you receive all your state aid, all your taxes are coming over from the township, and any other revenue in your miscellaneous account will also verify. On the expenditure side, we'll do our test of POs, or test of transactions, where we'll verify that there's proper support for each purchase order. We'll verify that there's proper signatures on your vouchers, and we'll verify that all expenditures go through your bill list. Then we'll also look at compensation. This is our payroll testing. Some of the things we look at for payroll testing is we'll do a sample of employees, and then we also look at high salary employees. So we're testing contracts to make sure everybody's being paid per their contracts. We look at health insurance with withholdings, make sure people who are receiving health benefits are their deductions are correct, and we also verify pension amounts. And overall for payroll, we'll make sure that all the quarterly taxes are being filed on a timely manner as well. The next fund is Fund 20. This is your special revenue fund. This is your grant accounting. And a few years back, they also added student activities and the scholarship fund to this fund. So again, we're always verifying receipts are coming in, making sure that they are accounted for properly in the correct fund. And again, we also verify disbursements. For student activities, we will go through each account, verify again, receipts are coming in, their proper receipts are being issued, and disbursements. One of the key factors we look at for student activities is that the expenditures going out are for the students, that they're not for like office supplies or anything else that doesn't benefit the student. So that's one thing we key on, that anything that is being dispersed out of the student activities is for the students. The next fund is Fund 30, Capital Projects. This is your construction account. So any type of construction, like if you're building a new school, if replacing windows, boilers, all that accounting has to run through Fund 30 in this separate account. So we'll verify that if any of those projects are taking place, that they've been properly accounted for. The next fund is your Fund 40. This is your debt service account. So basically, if the district can't fund a project that, internally, they might have to go out for a bond or a note. So if this is the case, this is where the that liability is accounted for. So again, we'll make sure that proper accounting is in place, and if there's a tax levy for debt service, we make sure that has been transferred to this account, and the bonds principal or no principal and interest have been paid from this account. The next account is Fund 60. This is your enterprise account. This is where all your food service activity takes place. So we'll look at, again, daily sales. We'll look at the child nutrition program. This is your reimbursements for free, paid, and reduced lunch. We make sure that those vouchers were properly submitted, they were received. And we also look at the food service company's profit and loss statement. We'll tie that into district records to make sure that there's no discrepancies there. We'll verify some lunch applications, and we'll make sure that the food service contract, the management fee is correctly paid as well. Then lastly, there's some other items I'd like to just touch on. Capital assets. We will verify that your capital assets are updated each year. Anything purchased by the board has to be transferred to this account and updated each year with depreciation as well. Another account is your long-term liabilities. These are your compensated absences and lease payments. Again, this has to be updated each year, and we'll verify that it's done so. Another account we look at is the single audit. This is your grant testing. So if this is based on your grant expenditures. If it's over a certain threshold, then it triggers a single audit. And there's two single audits. There's a federal single audit and a state single audit. And this whole section is just dedicated to that. There's more schedules that need to be filled out, and there's more testing we need to do. And the testing is based on the grants we need to look at. So it could be more salary testing, and it could be more contracts and tuition payable, and it could be for other items as well. And then finally, there's what's called the statistical section, also known as the J section. There's about 20 schedules here that we need to go through. It's anywhere from debt analysis to revenue comparisons to insurance schedules, and some of them are on a 10-year comparison. So then lastly, it's reporting. Everyone has a copy of the audit report. The state is very particular with the format of the audit. It has to be in a 2-book report. The thicker one is the annual comprehensive financial report. So in this report here, you will find everything I just mentioned. All the financial exhibits will be in here. It'll contain all the notes to the financial statements, and it has to be in a particular order. If it's not in the order prescribed by the State Department, it'll get rejected and you'll have to correct it. And then secondly is the thinner report, is the management report. This report is probably the most relevant to the board because it contains the district's fund balance determination and could also contain audit findings. But once again, I'm pleased to report that there were no audit findings this year. During our testing, there were no material exceptions that came to our attention that would require us to document it in this report. And I would like to commend the district on the record keeping. It's some of the best records I've come across in all my years. So I'd like to commend the business office on great record keeping. Next, I'd like to go through the district's fund balance allocation. If you'd like to follow along, you can find the fund balance allocation on page 96 of the financial report. So as of June 30th, the big book, yes. Yeah, it should be the. Yeah, page 96. So as of June 30th, 2024, the district had a total fund balance of $27,296,345.04, and that balance is comprised of the following reserves. $5,361,093 is assigned and has been designated to support the 24-25 budget. $222,812.62 is committed to year-end encumbrances. $268,433.32 has been designated to State Unemployment Insurance Reserve Fund. The next two reserve balances were all established by board resolution. The first one, $14,451,744.06 is designated for capital reserve projects. And of that $14 million, you have allocated $1,984,545 to support the 24-25 budget. The next reserve balance is $4,169,945, which has been designated in the maintenance reserve fund. However, $4,875 has already been used to support the 24-25 budget. And finally, $2,822,361.59 is the unassigned fund balance. This amount is below the maximum balance allowed, and as a result, no excess surplus was generated to support the 25-26 budget. In closing, I would just like to thank Dave for all his support during the audit, and I would like to say it was a seamless audit this year with Dave as the new business administrator, and look forward to working with him and the Overbridge District in the future.
Thank you.
I'll open it up for any questions.
I have a question. It's more out of curiosity than like budget. The depreciation of items purchased, who decides like how quickly it depreciates? Does it depend on what the item is?
You have a company that based on what type of asset it is, it's giving a useful life. So a building could be 30 years, a piece of equipment could be 5 years, depends upon,
That's
what
okay.
type of equipment it is.
I'm not sure if this will be a question for you or David, but we've put almost $27 million into a fund reserve, and obviously politics plays a huge role in what happens in school districts. And if our members on this board can remember what Chris Christie did, he raided the Board of Education's fund balances and took all that money back in 2011. Now, with what's happening this election cycle, where there's a good possibility that the political atmosphere may change, what will stop the new administration coming in saying, well, you got $27 million in your fund balance, we're going to take it like Chris Christie did. So how can we protect ourselves to make sure that money is not raided?
It's a question where it doesn't have an answer right now, but I would say, and I'm hopeful, the majority of that fund balance is really from the sale of properties, and it's in our capital reserve. So because there's a tangible sale of that property, and again, all of the fund balance was our balance, but because there was a sale of their property, I'd be hopeful that they wouldn't take those funds. I think in reality is if you compared this audit to a few years ago, you would have seen a much higher fund balance, but it's the impact of S2 that has driven us to really have a much lower fund balance. And again, when Mike speaks to the that 2%, we spend under the 2%, so that really shows that the community, to the board, the revenues that we're bringing in is really the expenditures going out. If there's a certain over 2%, you put that back into your subsequent budget year, back to the taxpayers. Our last year, so for the 22-23 audit, any funds that were going back into the 24-25 budget, which was this current year. I think it was just 146,000 is what we owed back to the
Correct.
to the taxpayers are back in the budget. Now this year, for the 25-26, we're below that. So there's no money that has to go back in the budget, and you know, that's the concern, is really as much revenue as we're bringing in, we're spending it out as well.
So David, are you saying that this year we're running on par and we're not going to be running in the black, where when we run in the black we can put the monies into the excessive fund balance to carry over and save in reserves? So as of right now, are you saying that we're on target and we're not going to be running in the black come
So
June 30th?
And I have said this, where for the 23-24 audit, again, we are under the 2%. So the monies that we could have replenished in capital and maintenance reserve was not there. So as Mike spoke, that maintenance reserve of $4 million to fund this year's budget for 24-25, we used $4 million. So that money is not available in 25-26 because we weren't able to replenish it. So if by your question, essentially, we know right off the bat we're behind $4 million on a revenue that we had last year and won't have this year. So when you talk about, obviously, our tax levy, we increased to 9.9, so it's higher than it ever would have been in prior years if you only went up to 2%. But not having that $4 million available puts us already behind the 8 ball, a pretty large 8 ball. So that's a big concern that I have going into the budget that we'll talk about, you know, going forward.
Now, with ratables being up here in Old Bridge Township, now how is the ratables going to impact that $4 million that you're forecasting?
Well, the $4 million for the reserves, when you have it in maintenance reserve, it can only go back to really our general maintenance. So when we talk about ratables, and again, it's often discussed in the budget presentation that I gave, the township, in the grand scheme of things, is behind. Our average assessed value in the home of Old Bridge, what our so last March or so, was about 154,000. So 150, I think it was 154,000, right around that range, maybe 157. But you know, we know those numbers are not as accurate, and we said that as a board, and it's a township thing as far as reassessment. The ratables have been, you know, we lost a little bit because parts of the utilities used to be in the ratables. They're no longer in as well. So I will be talking to the township as far as what those new numbers are certified for January. But more so, it's a little bit different, the ratables, as far as what, you know, we're getting back. But the $4 million, again, is we had that in our expenditures or in our revenues in the past. We don't have that. So that's the immediate, you know, right away, ratables aside, the reserve funding, the savings account that I kind of spoke to as a, you know, metaphor last year, the savings is really gone, because that was reserves that we were able to use in our general fund budget. Whereas that capital reserve, the healthiest one, really we can only do our capital improvements with those funding. So that's a big concern. We can start doing a bunch of you know, HVACs, but then in the grand scheme of things, that's also our cash flow, where we have it in the account. So a healthy cash flow brings in some interest and some extra revenue at the end of the year. When you start depleting that, then you really have nothing. So of course I would love to start doing all our HVACs and everything like that, stuff that we have missed out on doing because of our S2 cuts. It's just that having that balance in our accounts essentially allows for cash flow, some interest, and just making sure that, you know, because tax levy comes every month. So you make sure you can cover your payroll and your expenditures by having a little cash flow, essentially, and cash balance in your account.
So you're saying that the revenue or the interest that's being made on the $14 million, which $10 million is for sales of properties, that interest is put into the general fund and utilized for programs?
Most of it is, and then we can assign at the end of the year in the audit. We kind of take, all right, what really was the interest from the maintenance and capital, and then we divvy that out during our audit. But it just helps for, again, that cash flow that we have during the year.
Thank you, David. I can see that there's no irregularities in this audit. I think it's a testament to the district, your abilities, David Citadino's, and the entire administration, making sure that the audit is clean and that there is no impropriety or anything that's askew, and that is very refreshing. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, no, I'd say it every year, it's a running record. I think it's the 12th year in a row we've had no findings in our, about 12 years?
Yeah, I would say.
12 years in a row since this administration took over that we've had no findings in our audit report, and it's great to have a good business department that we can count on and work together as a team. And one of the things that I learned a few years ago with the importance of that cash flow and the sales of, of properties to help with that is, a lot of times often the state.
Anything else for the superintendent's report this week? Okay. Progress towards goals, we can, after we approve them next week, then we can start working on that. Any correspondence as of now?
No correspondence for tonight.
Okay. We will have special committee reports. We'll have 2, I think, next week. And then the committees, now that we have goals and things like that, we can start making some dates. The CARE DEI committee got enveloped in to the student life, so we're moving that meeting from the 19th of February to the 27th. It was suggested by one of the board members to try and have the committee meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, if possible, for the public, for easier planning, and for the board as well. So we're going to try and work with that if possible. But no, thanks. Go ahead.
And we also are trying to plan a finance meeting tentatively scheduled for Thursday, February 20th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Quick question. Is there a curricular meeting tomorrow? Yeah. It's not.
So there is no curriculum meeting tomorrow. That's for April 1st. And then there is a tentative finance meeting on the 20th.
Finance
February.
meeting would be committee of the whole, so it would be the entire board, tentative for 6 p.m. So that's, again, our first real, budget talk.
That's Memorial's Tricky Tray. I won't be there.
Thursday the 20th. We will have other finance meetings. It's just, we're trying to
I'm
get,
kind of running a Tricky Tray that day, so.
as you'll
sorry.
as we see the board goals and the district goals, and we talk about budget. This will be, me trying to bring as much information as possible to the board to start, having those deeper discussions. So.
Okay. Look forward to it. Any other comments or questions on special committee reports? All right. Hearing of residents on any agenda item. Okay, we'll close the mic. As of now, there's nothing for policy. Any questions on the curriculum professional development?
Yes. So, Mr. Wydell or Mr. Parton, the revisions to the curriculum, how necessary or mandatory are they?
There is a growing trend with the School Ethics Commission that the student learning standards, the SLSs, are in the nature of state law, and that some districts that have failed to pass those, there is talk of whether that is a per se ethics violation. That is developing, and that's something that we're going to need to keep in mind as we get into the spring, because it is certainly an issue that is a live issue in Old Bridge. It's not a definite thing yet, but it is something that the School Ethics Commission is putting out warnings about. Does that answer your question, Mr. Giordano?
Yeah. No, because it seems like a lot. And I think if we're going to be cutting things this year, that should be, especially because if most of the curriculum is going to be the same as the previous years, it doesn't seem to make sense to redo them. I've touched on it in previous times when we voted on it.
Mm-hmm.
So typically our curriculum guides are revised every 5 years. Not this past CUSAC, but 2 CUSACs ago, we did get a number of points taken off because we didn't have curriculum, because it was I guess it was before Mr. Shadino, it was with an interim superintendent, and since then we've done all of our curriculum guides every 5 years. Additionally, there are changes when new standards come in, like for example last year when we had math and English, we had to do both of those. So this is a 5-year update that we typically do. I have a spreadsheet I'll send you tomorrow that has all of the dates and times for each one of those respective curriculum guides. It's gauged over 10 years, so you can take a look at that. If you have any questions, give me a call.
And again, just as a curriculum writing is always something that's included within the budget as a lump sum. And when we have the conversation, we can certainly go through that, but it's something that we make sure is budgeted for, whether, can't speak to prior boards, but whether they thought it was necessary or not. It's something that, again, to Mr. Parton's point, as it's becoming, not the discussion of whether it's required or not or a right thing to do or not, but it is something that's just always included within the budget, based on a prospected summary.
Yeah, my understanding is like we take all of our curriculum and divvy it up into like a 5-year thing so that it breaks up the budgetary part of it. But also this is something that we usually have done more over the summer, and due to conversations we had last year, we moved it up in the calendar so that we as a board can review the information, with more time rather than look at it and vote on it right away. Am I correct?
Correct. So the timeline is, this is the first round. The next round will come in March. All curriculum guides are due by the May 26th curriculum meeting. I think it's May 26th or May 21st. Those will all be presented to the board at that curriculum meeting. They will not have to be voted on in June. They can be voted on in August. So that would give upwards of 90 plus days to review any of the curriculum guides. There will be more curriculum writing on the next agenda in March, specific to CTE, some guidance updates, and also challenge. So those will be coming as well. But most of our major ones, math, English, science, social studies, are not being rewritten this year. But the world language, CTE, and a lot of the arts and cultures are being rewritten.
Any other questions on curriculum? Okay. Finance, we're doing this one. Can I have a motion for
Ms.
finance?
Owen, motion.
A second, please.
Dunn will second, Madam President.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jodry,
Yes.
Mazzone,
Yes.
Slade,
Yes.
Solakowski.
Yes.
Venkatasen is absent. Dunn.
Yes.
Francisco,
Yes.
Giordano,
Yes.
D'Antuno.
Yes. Okay. The resolution passes. Any questions on items 3 through 13 on finance? Okay. Moving on to athletics. Any questions? Okay. For now, there's nothing on non-certificated personnel office. For operational, any questions on that one? Okay. Can I have a motion for non-certificated personnel other?
Giordano motion.
Ms. Owen will second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
In Venkatasen is absent, we'll go to Dunn.
Yes.
Francisco,
Yes.
Giordano,
Yes.
Jodry,
Yes.
Mazzone,
Yes.
Slade,
Yes.
Solakowski,
Yes.
D'Antuno.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 for non-certificated personnel other passes.
Okay, any discussion or any questions on items 2 through 8? Okay. Can I have a motion for certificated personnel? Items 1 through 4?
Ms. Owen, motion.
Jojo second.
We
Any
do
dis-
have an administrative correction here. For resolution number 1, within the agenda, it's to approve, amend, or extend the leave of absence. A correction is being made on attachment D1, line item for Carr, Anthony Carr, updating the effective dates in the unpaid medical column as follows. From 1/7, parenthesis 1/4 to 2/28/25. So that's the from. The 2 is now going to be 2/5, parentheses 1/4 to 2/28/25. That is the administrative correction. If Dr. Hoker has any clarification on the parentheses or the numbers, feel free, but that is the administrative correction.
Any discussions on items 1 through 4? Roll call, please.
Oop.
Yes.
No. Francisco? Giordano?
Yes.
Jodry?
Yes.
Mazzone?
Yes.
Slade?
Yes.
Solakowski?
Yes.
Venkatasen is absent. D'Antuno.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 4, certificate personnel passes.
Yes, Madam President, I want to bring up number 14. Obviously, we are receiving a Unified Champion School grant to help with our Play Unified of $17,700. Obviously, that's going to be utilized, I believe, to provide stipends for our staff who are running the programs. So after this year, is that grant going to be available for future use, or is it a one-time grant? And if it's only a one-time grant, then we have to make a concerted decision whether or not we're going to fund Project Unify going forward this coming year. So is it a one-time grant, or is it has to be applied for? What's the process with that Special Olympics grant?
The grant has been an annual basis, but has been, I guess, decreasing annually as well. There's talk that at some time, that grant won't be available. Obviously, in the district, an S2 district that is, decreasing in our funds, I would encourage us to always approve or apply for any grant in which we get funds to support the program. But as has been the will of this board, that though that the funds from the grant will go towards the Unified program, the board will fund the program, and regardless of the grant and how much the grant receives.
So this coming budget cycle, we will have to discuss whether or not we want to fund Play Unified here within the district. So that's something which I will implore my board colleagues to consider. It's a remarkable program that helps our most challenged children with social skills. When they play in a sports program or they participate in a club, it helps them assimilate to the mainstream, which is very, very important. And I'm very proud that our district encourages and endorses this program. And I can tell you unequivocally that it has paid immense dividends for many of our children. So I want to thank my board colleagues and the administration for always looking at the possibilities of providing the programs that make a difference. Thank you.
Excellent. And just for clarity for the public, we've already entered into conversations, negotiations with the OBEA to establish contractual stipends for those positions for next year. So we've started the conversation. We're working on other topics that are post-negotiations with them now, but that's already on the docket to have continued conversations, as the will of the board has been that they want to fund the program going forward.
Thank you, David.
Any other discussions on that topic? Anything else? Okay. Any questions or conversations on non-certificated personnel transportation? Okay. Any conversations on transportation?
Madam President, I do not have a specific question on an agenda item, but this might be a question for David Wydell. How's it looking with bringing back the late buses? Is there a possibility? I know that this winter season has been stressful on our budget, I'm sure, and I know that if we were going to have a good winter and we had savings on that line item, that we could possibly apply it to bringing back late buses at some point. So where do we stand, and how does it look for the feasibility and the possibility?
What?
It doesn't look good, Mr. Dunn. It doesn't look good right now. Every time we have a snowstorm, I mean, this was a few years back. I think a snowstorm is around 27,000.
It's more than that now.
And there's more than that now. It's a few years back. So, 30 plus probably per event. And that's salting, spreading, plowing. So as we're looking at multiple ones just in the past 7 days, that adds up. And that all comes off that 250 plus we're looking to bring back to maybe to have it at some point. And then you look at, as to Mr. Wydell's point before, that our maintenance reserves aren't where they were last year, and so we're $4 million behind on that. That was just to have an operating budget for last year, to have everything, all the programs that we maintained aside from that after-school transportation piece. So just to have the programs that we had last year required going to the 9.9 and using the maintenance funds just to have that, so we wouldn't have to cut more. So looking at the future, I can't tell you that it looks glorious for the after-school busing, and it's one of those very difficult decisions that this board has had to make, because we want to establish programs and keep our programs for our students that are sustainable, and things are less sustainable when you lose funds, and we've lost, I think, around $26 million over the course of the past 7 years.
Yeah, I was just asking the question because I want this board to be transparent and make sure it's known out there that, we did consider the possibilities, but since we've had 9 storms, and if it's costing us close to $30,000, that's $300,000 that is going out the door to deal with inclement weather and keeping students safe and keeping the properties hazard-free. I get it, and I just wanted to make sure that this board made it clear, because we do have employees out there who are thinking and hoping that it will come back, but due to the circumstances of the challenging weather that we've had, it's going to be very difficult based upon our budget situation and the restraints. Now, we're only in February 14th or February 11th, and we still have 45 days left of winter, and I can imagine that we'll probably have another 4, 5, 6 storms, so that would deplete any monies that we have as well. So I appreciate the candid
I was going to say,
responses.
we're in the first of 3 this week. There's whispers of something next week. I don't know if this was the right week to ask about where we are pre-snowstorms.
Yeah, as much as, and I run that projection in payroll, and you get a better sense around now, at the turn of the calendar year to New Year, you start seeing, all right, if this is what you spent on payroll in these lines, in the first half, then the second half you start to project out, and as we knew there was retros that had to be paid out to OBEA, and those are forthcoming in the upcoming payroll. So some of the things that, once you get to spring, it's called the pluck and pull season, where you look for the accounts that have some funds in, and you got to pluck and pull from those accounts to fund your other accounts, and that's kind of the the artwork that we have to do from now until the end of the year, as far as plucking and pulling, where there's money, wherever we can find money, and ultimately, as Mike's talked to, we're under 2% is always kind of where you want to be at the end of a school year. So when you have over 2%, it's great. You aren't spending, but we're at the point where we think we're spending our necessities, and we're under that 2% reserve. So what we're really spending is the money that we need to spend on our programs and all that comes with it, our maintenance and everything. So it's bleak to potentially bring back the program right now. And again, that's going to be a discussion we'll have going forward, at least starting on the 20th.
Any other conversations on transportation? Okay. Supplies, equipment, and services? Any discussion? Okay. Miscellaneous?
I have a question.
Go for it.
On number 5, I think we spoke about this last meeting, the donation of 220 children's books from the Bridge of Books Foundation for the students at Cooper. Where did the donation come from? And is there a reason why it was only allocated to that one school instead of, or is there a way for other schools to apply for that?
The last time it was Madison Park School.
Okay.
I know this is the second year in which Cooper School has received this, and it's basically an application through the Bridge of Books. From what I understand, the information was provided to school leadership, and if they applied for it, they were considered. I don't know if anybody was turned down, but these are the schools that were, and I don't even sure what the requirements are. I mean, both of those schools are Title I schools, so that might be a requirement of it as well.
Is that only limited to Title I schools, or can any school apply for that?
I don't know, but I promise you I'll get that information tomorrow and send it to you.
You got it.
I do know, I think the amount of books that they're getting is based on enrollment. I think once they get the application form, it's reviewed by the Bridge of Books, and based on the enrollment that they give, I think there's a certain amount of books. I think they were trying to get 2 books per student that was listed there, but again, that's an organization, Bridge of Books Foundation decision,
Right.
but
And
I know
you
we have a
can-
copy of that.
And a lot of information I received is just going on their website, Bridge of Books Foundation.
Okay.
Has a history of it and where the books come from.
Okay.
Any other conversations? Okay. Board secretary and board business, we met last week and came up with goals for the district for the rest of this year and for next year, as well as board goals. So any conversation on any of these?
Madam President, I just want to say thank you to the board members who were present. I know we had a few board members who were sick and were unavailable, but we had a very robust conversation. The synergy in the room was excellent. I think that the board is aligned on many of the issues that are at the forefront. And I want to just thank my fellow board members for spending the time to come up with a robust list of goals. And I'm very proud to be part of this group because I see that we are working together for the betterment of the district, and I hope that continues into the future.
It was about a 3-hour conversation with the public and things like that, so it was a good night. Any other conversations on that part? Okay. Hearing of residents on any district issue. Okay. Any comments from the board on anything? Okay. I did want to say one thing that goes to the whole district. My daughter has ice skating lessons, and last week there was the fire alarm went off at the ice skating rink. So when the kids do the fire drill, let me tell you, all the kids that were in there, and not everyone was from Old Bridge, but the kids were better than the adults as far as like not looking back, just making sure like my daughter grabbed her friend and then went straight out with their ice skates. I was the crazy mom making sure like she wasn't in the building before I left. But the fire drills come in handy at the school. So the kids did a great job. So thank you for that training for the kids because it definitely does work. We are going to go into executive session.
I have one more thing to
Jen,
say.
go for it.
Yep.
Whoa, sorry. Oh, that's what I thought we were doing. I'm sorry.
You want me to go first? Okay. So Scott Elbaum had reached out to a couple of us board members regarding Brady's Voice and the Old Bridge High School Hope Squad during a February 27th meeting. If anyone is interested, you could register for that. They are also doing a golf tournament to tee you off for mental health. That's another thing that you guys can sign up for. If anyone is interested, you guys can go on to the Brady's Voice Facebook page, sign up, or reach out to Scott himself. I think that was all I had, right? That was it. Yeah, just the two. Okay, that's all I had.
Yeah, I don't know if this is old business or new business, so that's why I'm kind of in the middle of it. But in March 2022, I know that board member Teresa Burns had introduced an inclusion resolution where basically the board adopted it in March 22. I think Matt was on the board then and Jay was on the board then as well. I was watching old board meetings to see. It basically is just a commitment by the Old Bridge School District to ensure that the schools are inclusive of all students and the diversity of needs, ensuring that students, all students are general education students, but some may require additional supports, and that opportunities are provided for all students in all school programs, including extracurricular activities, interventions, things like that, and just basically that the schools always include inclusive practices. And I think it would just be nice if, as a new board, and since it hasn't been reaffirmed since March of 2022, I just think it would be nice if next week we, as a board, reaffirmed it. If anybody wants to see it, you can do that. But just kind of a few parents reached out to me, worried about their children not getting being able to get services, just based on things that they've read federally and statewise. And I think it would be nice if we reaffirmed the inclusion resolution at next month's board meeting.
Marjorie, would you like to make that a motion?
I would like to make that motion that we reaffirm it.
Okay. A second?
Francisco will second.
Okay. Roll call?
Do we need to do a roll call?
Do we?
It's
Discussion?
just
I'm sorry.
discussion. We'll put it on.
Yeah.
Do they have to?
we'll formally put it on the agenda for,
We have to see if there are 3 board members who wish for it to be on the agenda before we add it to the agenda.
Okay, so any discussion?
so we have Marjorie and Elena.
I would add it. I would like to add it.
I would as well. So I think you have enough to put on the agenda.
So is there anyone opposed? Okay. So we can put that on next.
All right,
next
we will
agenda.
add that, and I'll check where it was within the agenda to get it under the appropriate spot.
So I have another thing also. One, I want to thank Mr. Domino. I had to reach out to him regarding, every week we get the athletic schedule, and I had asked him if it was possible to include all admin, as well as town council, the mayor, to be included on those emails, just to get more community involvement in our, for our sports. And I want to say thank you to him and to his team, because I believe last week was the first week that, everyone got it, and I actually got a few text messages that they were all appreciative of that schedule going out to them. Also, Elena and I had attended the Play Unified pep rally at the high school last week, was it? I think it was last week. And it was such a fun game to watch. The kids really got into it. The crowd really enjoyed it. So afterwards, I had reached out to Mr. Cittadino and Mr. Wydell about a Board of Ed versus admin volleyball game as a fundraiser. And I would really like to try to get something together where we can, whether it's, the 9 of us versus, 9 admin or whatever the case may be, and really, raise money, and we can put it towards some, something, whether it's, Play Unified or whatever it is, we could put it, and I think it would be a really fun and team building activity that we could do all together. So,
Giordano, second.
thank you,
I'm
Sal.
definitely in. I can tell you that we had a softball game back in 2013, the Board of Education versus the Township Council, and it was a very well-received event, and I think
We could
doing
do
this
board
again
versus
would be
town.
great.
I mean, I had said baseball, but I mean, Elena came up with volleyball. I'll go with volleyball, but I think I said basketball. You're right. Oh, we could do
Ooh, kickball.
dodgeball.
We could do
Dodgeball's
kickball.
fun too. But
We
I
could-
just
we
think
could
it'd
beat
be a
them in
nice
anything, though.
team activity that we can just do together and just get the community involved, and we could raise money and put it towards something, and just help out a little bit. So
What about a dunk tank? I know someone that has a dunk tank.
I would love
we've
to
done
talk to
that.
some people in this town.
How about we do this? I think that Board Member Mazzone has a great idea. Maybe we could take the proceeds and do a scholarship fund with those proceeds, because we do give scholarships out in in May. So maybe we can consider that. I think that may be a great avenue to have some sort of fund, put together for a well-received child who needs funding.
Absolutely.
I love that idea.
Thank you.
So why don't we all take this week and come up with an idea, and we'll add that to discussion next week of
Absolutely.
where the funds could go, and then we can work on planning. Any opposition? Great idea. And then we have to decide who we're playing, town council or the administration. Any other? What? Elena?
Yes, I do have just one thing I wanted to, well, a couple things actually, that I wanted to touch upon. So I wanted to start by thanking Dr. Tui for meeting with me 2 weeks ago. I just told Christina, I don't even know what day it is. But we did meet pretty recently. I had some questions regarding CUSAC, and he was kind enough to sit down with me and really go through everything. So I just wanted to say thank you for offering me all of that information, sharing with me, sending materials. And I also just wanted to provide a little more transparency for the public. So, Mr. Cittadino, you did report on this at our last meeting and gave a little background on what CUSAC is with its 5 categories. So I just want to focus really quickly on the instruction and program section. Mr. Cittadino, you had said that each section needs to get a score of at least 80 in order to pass in the state's eyes. And we did not in the instruction and program. So I just wanted to provide exactly where we lost those points, and in hopes that we can all work together to make sure we can improve in the future. And that being said, I just want to preface this by saying the state uses the NJSLA in order to evaluate our district. It's really the only kind of standard way that they can treat all the districts in the same manner. So while I don't always love that we're just using this one assessment, it's just the way that it's done right now. So that's what I would like to share. So we lost 3.6 points in ELA achievement, 4.4 in math, 3.8 in science. Although when you're looking at it, the scores that they're out of are different. So out of 7.5, I should start have said, out of 7.5 for ELA achievement, we lost 3.6. Out of 7.5 for math, we lost 4.4. Out of 5 total for science, we lost 3.8. We also lost some points in our progress, so they don't only measure what you get as a whole as a district on the NJSLA, it's your progress as well. So for ELA progress, out of 7.5, we lost 2.1, and out of 7.5 for math, we lost 1.3. We also lost 1 point in the graduation section. We did get 14 out of 15, and then there's one other section for school quality. We got out of 10, we lost 1.4, and then we did lose a solid 4 for the health curriculum, which we knew was coming. So I just wanted to say, as a board member, as a parent, as a community member, and as a prior educator, I'm more interested in seeing how we can improve our academic scores in the ELA and the math, and especially the science, because the ratio, I guess if you're looking at it as a percentage, we really technically got 24% of the points we could have in science. So the reason I bring this up is because I would love to, I know Mr. Weidell's about to twitch sitting next to me because we're not sure where we stand with money, but I would love to see us acquire science curriculum for the elementary and the middle school levels. Let's give our teachers, our great teachers, something more to work with, because I know at this point we don't have something solid for them. So that I will be pushing for that as much as I can within, whatever budgets we have. So I just wanted to bring those numbers to light and let everybody know exactly where we lost those points. I know we are appealing to the state, and hopefully it'll come out with a better score, but I want to focus on that. Let's see what else. I just wanted to say great job to Mr. Weidell and his team for such a great outcome with our audit. And I did also want to reply to Mr. Dunn when you were talking about the Unify program and how you hope all the board is ready to push for it. And I just want to say that, I'll speak for myself, that I am, and that, before you did join us at the table, we have been having lots of discussions with them and, to support that program as much as we can moving forward. And I'm a full proponent of using whatever monies we have to make sure that program continues without any interruptions. So I just wanted to address that.
Thank you, Madam Vice President.
That's
That
it.
means a lot that you are on board with that program, and it does pay dividends for children with who are challenged or have special needs. So thank you.
100%. I think that's it. Thank you.
Just to piggyback a little bit off what Alena was saying regarding the science curriculum, I had spoke to a few of our especially elementary school teachers in different schools, and they would also like to see some more engagement in the science aspect with, experiments and stuff like that. So if we could look into that somehow, I know the budget doesn't always support it, but I think that's an important topic. And I think it would only benefit our kids. So if we could look into that somehow. And yes, to piggyback up off of the Unified, we have been working very closely with SEPTA to gain as much momentum on Play Unified as we can. So anything that we can do on our end, we have been trying to do. So that's it. Okay.
Sal, I know you want to talk, but I just want on this. You might not know off the top of your head, Dr. Tui, but when was our science curriculum last reviewed?
Last summer.
Oh.
When did we last be able to purchase materials?
So we do have middle school curriculum. We did put a 1-year Band-Aid on it for this current year, because we had a 6-year contract. The science supervisor and head of testing, Mr. Caulfield, was able to work out a deal with the publishing company to allow us access to materials. We still use classroom sets of textbooks. So we do have a 6 through 8 curriculum, although it is needed to be replaced for this upcoming year, either for 1 more year or for a long-term contract. For elementary, there is a little bit of a void. The teachers are a little bit on their own in terms of getting materials. We do have departmentalization that's being talked about across the 11 elementary schools. I know certain elementary schools do it now with much success. I know that Grissom, Shira, I would say Miller as well, does departmentalization. It works very well. the kind of hurdle has always been those 3-section buildings, including Voorhees, Madison Park, and a couple other buildings. So we are working with those principals, and if we are departmentalizing for all 11 elementary schools next year, then that would be the ideal time to purchase 4 and 5 grade level science materials and some level of social studies materials to allow those teachers who are going to be doing the full-time science and social studies instruction, because right now the elementary teachers teach 3 periods of ELA, 2 periods of math, and then the science social studies block. So they're really prepping for 4 to 5 classes a day. That would allow it, but by departmentalization, they could be more specialized. We could do more specialized PD, and then the materials would really benefit those teachers in the departmentalized grades of 4 and 5.
Is there a science curriculum for kindergarten on up, or it really starts at 4th?
We have a curriculum, but not a hardcover textbook.
Okay.
So there are online activities and materials that are provided to the teachers in the curriculum guides, but there's not a textbook associated with those
I don't know
materials.
if we need to have like a textbook per se, but you know, as long as the kids are getting the curriculum, and then we can work on advancing that part.
We did have that, just for the record, in the ESSER 3 grant, circa 2022-23, I want to say. And then because of the S2 cuts, some of the curriculum materials that we were looking to purchase through the ESSER 3 grant, ESSER 2 grant, was substituted by staff member salaries, just to make sure we were able to support the students with the, I believe, all the behaviorists and BCBAs we were put in there, as well as some other positions, including reading specialists. So those have since come out of any grant-funded positions and are now locally funded, but at the time, we were planning on using that money for science materials and substituted it for staff members who were supporting students.
Any other questions on that part of the curriculum before we go to Sal's comment? Okay, go ahead, Sal, sorry.
Yeah, as stated earlier, next week we're going to have our finance meeting, and I remember last year it seemed like most of the people came just for the public meeting at the very end, and then in the subsequent months after that, discussing the transportation issues. So I'd like the public to be more involved this time, send more emails. We went to Trenton last month, and I didn't get a response. I don't know if the administration got a response. So unfortunately, a lot of people didn't care about that in the Department of Education and the legislator. So that's very unfortunate, but I'd like the public to participate, make their voices heard, CC me on the emails. I haven't gotten any yet, so I hope people start to get more involved in the process and speak up at the meetings.
So
This is Thursday, February 20th.
Thursday, it will be committee of the whole. It's executive session though, so we'll just be discussing the 25-26 budget. They can still send your comments as you wish, but it is an executive session for that discussion.
Because I was also saying, like, for one of the meetings, we should have it half to the public and then half executive session. You think that would be possible, better?
Well, this one is for. I'd really like to focus on the budget for this one. It's a big. There's going to be a lot of discussion, and because of the change of the structure, I believe finance is really with long-term strategic planning and shared services. So this will really just focus on the budget for this one.
Right, so this one is executive session, but future ones can be open to the public.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, perfect. All right, thank you. And that's it. Thank you.
Just one more thing. I am proud to say that starting February 18th, all of our schools across the district will now be serving breakfast. So I really want to thank David Wydell for getting involved and being as pushy as we can with that. Not pushy, but you know what I mean. As we can with that. I want to thank our Mark team. I'm probably the pushy one, but it's a very good. It's a very, very big accomplishment, and really I want to say thank you for helping me and Julia from Aramark on getting this, because I think it's such an important thing for our kids. Even if it's just one kid that's getting breakfast, I think it's amazing to have that across all the schools. So I just want to say thank you, and I hope that this program really just takes off.
Thank you. And we will say to one school, with the reintroduction, the relaunch of the program, we saw, sales of over 30-something students. So certainly, whatever decision was made, if it had a low participation, it certainly has, made an impact. So thank you for your efforts that you put forth. And, that's ultimately what the needs of the student. So thank you.
Any other old or new business?
I just want to touch base on that, just an example of that, where we have we have a student in district who doesn't actually attend school in district, is attending a school out of district, but that school doesn't participate in the free breakfast and lunch program. But the family desperately needs it. But this team has been working very hard to make sure that we have some way to get that meals provided for that student, even though they won't be coming here to receive those meals. So to your point, to make sure we reach the needs of every child. And for the children who are watching, remember you have a 2-hour delay tomorrow. You get to sleep a little bit later, and hopefully this winter will be kind to us and allow us to not
spring
use
break.
as many days and enjoy a spring break, or not take any adding days onto the end of the school year. So, thank you.
Jen, one more thing. I think because we changed the days of some of the meetings to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the app still reflects the old days. It does say tentative, but there's several meetings on the app that are on the wrong days now. So maybe, I don't know
Dr.
if you want me to
Holmes in your
contact
office?
Joanne tomorrow?
Or Debbie?
I think we need an updated list of the dates of
Yeah.
the meetings. We're just saying them here, so
Right.
we need that list. If you put
Mhm.
them on that calendar that I sent, I don't know. If
Well, I don't think yeah, so that was, the committee chairs need to kind of talk to your committee members and see what days of the month work best. If you can shoot for Tuesday and Thursday, that we decided that was going to try and be a goal, but it's more important that your committee members are able to attend the meeting. But try and at least work on not only a meeting sooner, but also plan out going towards the end of the school year so that the public and the administration and stuff can plan appropriately.
So do you want me to contact Joanne tomorrow and tell her to remove those meetings?
If you want to contact, we have a running list within our office because any meeting we do have to advertise. So if you just send an email to us, to Joanne and myself, we'll double check with that list, and then I'll make the communication with Dr. Hoker and Mr. Cetadino to just and Dr. Tui as well, just to see.
Yeah, we like to operate from a place where Joanne gets it, they advertise it, and then we post it on the district website. We don't want to post it based upon it not being advertised yet because it could change at any point from that point.
Yeah, I
So-
wasn't even talking about the new updated ones. I was talking about just remove the ones that aren't going to happen because I don't want people to go out to a meeting
that was
that
going to
doesn't
be my
exist.
next question: is do you want all of the meetings taken off?
Well, there's no curriculum meeting tomorrow, and that's on there, and then there's
Yeah,
a
so-
DEI.
Take the
But-
tentative ones off,
Yeah.
especially if we're going to try and reallocate to the Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay. 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 So we'll remove. I'll at the very least take all of
Curriculum.
February and March off.
Yeah, and then
get
we
the
can
new
work.
dates and update.
Thank you.
Debbie's already texting me. She's watching.
Thank you, Debbie.
Regarding the preschool
Lottery.
today, how are people notified? Like, how are the families notified if they got in, if they didn't get in, or?
So beginning tomorrow, we'll go through the actual names, associate them with the numbers that were provided to the parents via the email system. I did hear through the grapevine that some of the initial emails that went out to parents went to their spam. So if you signed up for the lottery and didn't get a number, go check your spam account. It might be in there. But then once the parents are identified, after we ask them for if they're interested, initial deposit, and then after that we go to the wait list. The Old Bridge Township Preschool wait list is based on when a parent put in for the actual lottery. So I believe that the lottery link was live on or around December 13th. Please don't quote me around that time. And then from number 1 down to number 294, that's the numbers that we go through based on the wait list if your number was not called. And then sometimes when we ask for deposits, parents are a little, they're not quite sure. They don't know if they want to send a 3-year-old to a full-day preschool program. So we constantly go through the list, and it's our running list all the way through until really the spring. By then, we have to solidify our class lists. So if you don't get a notification this week, please don't count us out. We'll reach out to you if and when there is a position that is open. And do so as quickly as possible because I know this is the season that everyone's planning on doing their preschool registrations. So.
Can I just add one thing on registrations? So we opened up kindergarten registration on February 5th, and 3 days later, we had 303 students in the pre-registration process. It's a two-step process. So the first part is just going into the system and putting in your first set of paperwork, and then really going through and downloading the paperwork and filling in everything and submitting it and making sure that you have all of your documentation. Once all of the documentation is received and we've checked it and confirmed, then we put the student in real time. They're cleared by the nurse, and they're an actual registered kindergartner. We have 6 of those. So out of 303, in 3 days, 6 people completed the process. I bring it up because it's really important that you complete the entire process in order to be registered and to save your spot and avoid potential overflow. One thing that we did this year is we put a mailbox outside of central administration right in front of the front doors. There, you can drop off your documents at any time, even on the weekend. So if you can't get here during the week, complete your paperwork. You can email it to us, you can send it in electronically, but if you don't have the means to do that, or you prefer the hard copy, put it in an envelope, label it, and put it right in that envelope, and we'll process it. So that will hopefully help some folks out, but make sure you complete all of the documents.
I was saying in our meeting, going over those enrollments, these are your COVID babies. That's why we're seeing the numbers go up a little bit. These are the babies of COVID.
Well, I have one school that has 10 slots left, and it's a record for this school, so they're filling up.
So if you don't want to be overflowed, we encourage you to get your registration in early.
Any other old or new business? Okay, we're going to go into executive session. So to the public, thank you for coming. Drive home safely. Have a nice Valentine's Day. Enjoy your long weekend. For President's Day, a motion to go. Do I need a motion?
Giordano motion.
Ms. Almost second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.